But I want to ask you to describe 4 different clubs. Okay. So this is going to be like a Rorschach test. Mercer Arts Center.
That was very eclectic, and that was one of the first. That's where I first saw the New York Dolls. But going up the stairs, they had a number of different rooms, and one of the rooms, it was an old ballroom from the Broadway Central Hotel. It was the back of the hotel, and where the ballrooms had been. And so there was one room that larger and smaller rooms. There was a large room that had been the coat check, and I think they had turned that into a boutique. And it was the first time I saw vinyl mini skirts and some very bright spandex things, fluorescent spandex clothes and platform shoes. A lot of them. And that was one room. The room that actually was the kitchen for the old ballrooms became an experimental video group, was working in there, and they're still called the Kitchen today, 40 years later, more than 40 years later. But they got their name, the Kitchen, because they started out in the kitchen, the Mercer Arts Center. And then there was what they call the Oscar Wilde room. And in the middle, when you came up the stairs, in the middle, there was a bar, kind of a horseshoe bar. And I remember the first time I went there, it's because I was working with John and Yoko and the Elephant's Memory Band. And the Elephant's Memory were managed by the same managers as the New York Dolls. And I went to the office one time to drop off some pictures of the Elephants, and the guy in the office said, "Oh, come to the Mercer Arts and see the New York Dolls." And so I went there, and there's a bar in the middle, and there was a little bandstand at the end, and I was waiting for a band to come out, and they never came out. And I had a beer or two, and I left. And I went back the next time, and I'm waiting for the band, this little bandstand, and I see people going in and out of a door in the wall. And after a beer or two, I thought that must be the men's room because so many people going in and out. So I walked over there, I walked in, and my life changed. It was like the Oscar Wilde room. One wall was like it was like Fellini. There was a very steep bleachers on one side. It just looked like a wall of people. And the other side was completely packed and crowded. And the middle of the crowd was the New York Dolls was playing, almost not even on the stage. It was like just surrounded by people dancing through the band and around the band. That's what I remember at the Mercer Arts Center. That was a great place.
Yeah,
and then it didn't fall down like in the movies. The building fell down in the afternoon, and it actually started shaking for a couple of hours. So everybody got out of the building. Nobody got hurt when the building fell down.
Okay, next, the Diplomat Hotel.
Well, that was a seedy hotel on 43rd Street off Times Square. And when the Dolls played there, it was kind of an old-fashioned, used-to-be ballroom. Like when you go into a ballroom and the floor is a wooden floor, but all the boards are kind of uneven now because it's 75 years later. I remember the Diplomat Hotel was a very seedy kind of place, and those are the kind of places where you feel comfortable. Like nobody's looking at whether you spilled a drink on an expensive floor or anything. You could really have fun in a place that's comfortable. Like going to your friend's basement. It's not the living room, it's the basement.
Right. I saw kids there for the very first time.
The Diplomat, but then soon, like within a couple of years, they opened, I almost said it, they opened a fancy nightclub on the roof. Oh God, it's like tip my tongue and everything. Les Jardins.
Next, the Mud Club.
Well, if you remember being there, you weren't there. The Mud Club came out in the very early 80s. Because I always thought it was the end of the 70s, but I think it actually opened in 81 or 82. It's a place you went late at night, very stoned. It wasn't really a place to get stoned. It was a place you went to, you're already whacked out of your head. And it was 4 floors of fun. I remember there was like an upstairs, and Chichi Valenti was the door person. Her and what was his name? Johnny Donnell was one of the DJs. It was really very avant, very loose. I just remember everybody being on drugs. It was really a pretty stoned down scene. Really great music, Johnny Donnell, and what was the other guy's name? I'm going blank. He's a good friend of mine, I should remember. Anyway, a couple of really good DJs. You stagger out of there around 4 in the morning, and around the corner, because they were a block south of Canal Street,
Right.
and it's just between Broadway and whatever else was on the east there, and right on the corner of Broadway and Canal Street was a hamburg place that was 24 hours. So you'd see people in there in a neon light having breakfast. You know? Great place. And Steve Mass was the guy who ran it. And I actually just saw him recently. He's had some serious health issues, and he was just walking down the street smiling, telling me about it. I've never met anybody who had an aneurysm and lived, and he had like several, and he's still running away. But the Mud Club was a real innovation. That he was one of those club owners. There's a couple of club owners like Hilly Crystal at CBGB or Steve Mass who opened a club for people to have a good time, for him to have a good time, but not necessarily to make a lot of money. Like decisions weren't based on making money. They were based on comfort level and comfort level for the clientele. And Steve Mass was, you know, he ran a good club. The Mud Club was great.
Wow. Yeah, I love going there. And lastly, Pyramid.
Oh, Pyramid. Yeah, well, that was an early gay performance club that was quite wild, and it gave a lot of gay performers a place where they could be more publicly outrageous. You know, they go-go girls who were guys. I don't know. You're allowed to say that nowadays. Everybody's a they nowadays.
I guess so. Who cares?
Yeah,
the internet.
This is radio. You can say whatever. Yeah.
My granddaughter was telling me about a friend of hers who's a they, and I said, you know, I'm a little old for that. I said, I don't know about they, them, or those. I know about people. I knew Jackie Curtis. Jackie Curtis didn't have a pronoun. Jackie Curtis's pronoun was Jackie. You know, you didn't have to define. I consider myself this. People didn't consider themselves anything. They just were. You know, you're just who you are. You don't have to define who you are. You just do it, you know. And at the Pyramid, I don't remember people necessarily being defined. They were just outrageous.
And they were having fun.
It was the first place I
great music.
RuPaul. I have a thing in my life where if some oddball comes down the street, they usually know me. Just because the kind of, I've done such a broad cross-section picture that there's something for everybody, and a lot of people know my pictures. And I remember standing in front of the Pyramid Club and with a girlfriend, and two you know, queens came around the corner, and these are the kind of guys who have like 6-inch platforms and, you know, 12 inches of hair, and, you know, the guy looked like 8 feet tall, and he comes around the corner. I remember elbowing my girlfriend, going, whoa, check out these guys. And the guy starts waving, hey, Bob. And I'm like, is there someone else around? You can't mean me, right? Because I had never met him. But RuPaul knew who I was, and he came over, and he was thrilled to meet me. And we actually started a friendship. And for a while, he lived in the neighborhood around the corner from my building here. I used to see him in D'Agostino without the wig. He was a very nice guy. He still is a very nice guy. And nowadays, he doesn't have the wig anymore. He's actually bald.